Macca's Guides.
Hey guys, Macca here. Welcome to the 10 hardest completions of 2016. This is a yearly series where I count down the hardest and the longest games of the year. Now, kudos to you if you've completed any of the games in the top 10. I just don't have that level of commitment. Now, let's do a little bit of housekeeping and explain the rules really quick so that you guys know exactly how I figured these out and why certain things are in certain places. Rule number 1, the game had to come out in 2016. That one's pretty simple. Rule number 2, we ignored DLC because DLC really complicates things, makes my research almost impossible to do, and honestly, it varies in difficulty so much from DLC pack to DLC pack and from game to game that it's simply not possible to do that. Rule number 3, I'm ignoring really obscure games that don't have a large player base and not enough information about them to make an educated decision about where it goes in the list. These are games like Cobalt, Momentum, Reverse Quest, and Hyperdrive Massacre. There's just simply not enough people playing them and simply not enough information out there to put them in the list accurately. And then rule number 4, the biggest rule, this is going to be why people are wondering why certain games are in certain places, is the weighting of how hard it is versus how long it is. And the way I made the formula in Excel was to give a weight of 70% to the skill necessary to complete the game and a weight of 30% to the time that you'll need to invest into the game to get your completion out of the way. This allows us to have a good mix of games that are shorter but very difficult and games that are longer and maybe not as difficult as some of those really tough games. Overall, I'm really happy with the list, and before we get started, let's get into the honorable mentions, the games that are really tough but just simply not tough enough. They include games like Dark Souls 3, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, The Witness, Lies of Astaroth, Zeroes, Stardew Valley, Recore, Attack on Titan, Dead Rising 4, NHL 17, and 7 Days to Die. All these games were within the top 20 or so and in the running, but didn't quite make the cut. Now, I've also ranked the games from the 11th spot through to the 15th spot, but won't be talking about them in depth. In 15th, we have Assetto Corsa. In 14th, we have Star Trek Online. In 13th, we have Action Hank. In 12th, we have Prominence Poker, which is in a category of its own a little bit. And in 11th, we have Steep. Let's get started with the top 10. Now, kicking off the list at number 10, we have Trials of the Blood Dragon, probably the only game on the list that I would be willing to do. However, I simply don't enjoy it enough to put in the time. Now, what makes this a difficult completion? Well, the Trials series is known to be an easy to play but hard to master type of game, and getting the skills you'll need in order to complete everything in this game could take potentially hundreds or even thousands of hours. You'll be asked to complete all the tracks in the game, which isn't really that hard, and do a bunch of miscellaneous tasks. You'll also then unlock a bunch of CD-ROMs, which is a little bit on the harder end but not too bad. Then you'll need to get an A grade on all of the levels. And then the kicker is getting an A+ grade on all of the main story levels, which is very difficult. And as of right now, only about 70 riders in the world out of the thousands of people who have played are good enough to do this. In order to do this, you'll essentially need to be able to complete some of the absolute hardest tracks in the Trials series while making absolutely no faults and making sure you get all of the time skips so that you can complete the track as fast as possible. Add to that the game is a little bit more inconsistent than previous Trials with things like swinging ropes and bouncing platforms, and you have a completion that's probably going to be a 9 out of 10 on the difficulty scale, reserved for only expert riders in the Trials series. With that being said, it is going to be very difficult, but it's not going to be impossible. I would say that this is actually significantly easier than completing Trials Fusion legitimately without that little glitch that we had when the game first came out. Either way, Trials of the Blood Dragon has taken up the number 10 spot this year. Next up in the number 9 spot, we have Tumblestone, which is a match 3 game. Easy enough, right? Well, not really. Unfortunately, this game is actually really difficult. Now, it definitely starts off on the easier end, asking you to go through some of the worlds in the story and complete a bunch of online matches, but then it gets much more difficult as the campaign progresses into the final world. There's a total of 12 worlds in story mode, and every time you get to the next world, it gets progressively faster and harder, and every time it's random, so there's really no way for you to look up a solution other than to just get good at the game. Now, even though most people are not going to be good enough to complete the story mode, there's something that's even harder, and that is for winning a battle match against 3 nightmare bots, which is some of the gameplay you're watching right now. As you can probably see on screen, you'll need to become a little bit of a master in this game in order to be able to keep up with the nightmare bots and actually come out the winner. Now, luckily, this game isn't that long, the average person taking between 50 and 60 hours to complete it, but as you can tell on screen by how fast it's going and how much skill you need, it's definitely going to be the skill that holds you back, if anything. In my opinion, any game that's going to make you become the master of that game and hold you back because of difficulty deserves a spot on the list. Next up in the number 8 spot is Overwatch, and one small rule that I didn't mention in the beginning of the video is that you're not allowed to break the game in your favor in order to boost the achievements or trophies. And in this game, there was a small cheese where you could play against friends in online matches, but they've since fixed that, and it will now require you to play the game as intended against actual people online. Now, Overwatch is a ton of fun, and you'll probably find yourself playing around 50 hours to get to level 50, although this doesn't require much skill at all. Additionally, though, you'll also find yourself playing for hours upon hours upon hours trying to get the character-specific achievements and trophies to unlock. Now, luckily, there's some really easy characters like Tracer and Reinhardt, which you should be able to get out of the way quite rapidly, but there are some very tough characters you'll have to master in order to grab all the rest, like Zenyatta, Reaper, Lucio, and even Winston. Now, the thing that's going to drive people really crazy is the fact that everything here is online, and that means you have to play against other players who are realistically trying their hardest. Now, the best case scenario is that you're playing this game with 5 of your friends in a party chat and coordinating together in order to unlock the tough stuff. But not only will it require the coordination of your teammates, it will also require your enemies to play in very specific ways and use very specific team compositions, which will probably drive you insane. You'll probably be spending a lot of your time waiting for a certain map or a certain game type in the rotation, and then once you do get that, you'll probably be waiting even longer for the enemy team to play in a specific way for what you're trying to get. A lot of these will require a lot of time and patience, as well as luck and mastering each and every character until you can get what you need out of the way. And because of that, we're going to be putting Overwatch at number 8. In the next spot, we have one of the 2 racing games appearing on our list, and that's Dirt Rally. Now, from the start, Dirt Rally is a very serious racing game. It's a simulation game, and it's made for dedicated rally enthusiasts and not your average arcade racer, so it already has a pretty steep learning curve for newcomers. You'll be learning the ins and outs of what it means to be a rally driver before you can even make any progress in the career at all. Seriously, you're going to need to have a lot of skill to get through the first part of the season, let alone all of the seasons. Alright, so let's get into a little bit more of the specifics. On average, for the average person who has completed this game, they've played it for between 60 and 100 plus hours. You'll be spending the majority of your time getting through the career, including all of the subclasses of the rally, rallycross, and hill climb categories. Along the way, you'll be making sure to buy the best engineers for your team, and also progressing to become the champion at the master level, which is the absolute hardest difficulty, and you're going to be setting some of the world's best lap times in order to get there. You'll also be required to win every stage of a 12-stage event with no assists, which is no easy task in this game, by the way. And you'll also be required to do some online stuff like finishing in the top tier of a rallycross event or completing a monthly event. Now, monthly events may not sound that difficult, but if you crash your car during a monthly event, you'll actually not be allowed to complete it until the next month. These events usually consist of 24 stages, and the stages can be between 3 to 5 minutes, meaning that you'll have to play for about an hour and a half without taking significant damage to your car, which isn't actually that easy. Now, Dirt Rally is a game that is near and dear to my heart, and I think it's actually quite excellent, but that doesn't stop it from being one of the hardest games of the year. In at the number 6 position, we have Happy Dungeons, which on average takes between 300 to 500 hours. So this one's definitely earning its position through its time sink, even though it's not going to be that hard, but does require a little bit of skill. The majority of your time will be spent grinding to player level 50, which takes a very long time. And then in terms of skill, you'll have to complete 42 missions on insane difficulty. Luckily, you can grind these out on your own, and they're not actually as hard as the name might suggest. I honestly really don't have a heck of a lot to say about this game. It's really long, and it's a little bit difficult, so I think it's earned the number 6 position. Next up, in the number 5 position, we have Battleborn, which takes a very long time. Even with the recent update that will unlock all characters automatically, you'll find yourself going through the campaign on normal difficulty. You'll also have to do it on advanced and hardcore, which can be quite challenging. And on top of that, you'll need to complete all of the lore challenges for all of the heroes, which will take you forever, ranging the average person from anywhere between 150 to 200 plus hours. Now, for most of the lore challenges in the game, they are cumulative and will require you to play a certain Battleborn character for a certain amount of time, but there are some that also involve a lot of skill on top of the grinding. Now, this game earned its position on the list by taking a very long time to complete, while also having a difficulty-specific achievement that is very challenging. In at the number 4 position is our hardest racing game of the year, being TrackMania Turbo, a game that I really enjoyed until it became so hard and so frustrating. The only thing it made me want to do was throw my controller. Now, the completion for this game isn't all that complicated. Essentially, there's a career mode. The career mode has 200 tracks, and you're gonna need to beat all of the tracks and get a gold medal on all of them. Simple enough, right? Not really, because after 100 tracks, the game gets really difficult, and the last 40 tracks are exceptionally difficult just to pass, let alone get a medal, let alone get a gold medal. Additionally, after a certain point, you'll need to get a gold medal on a track before it lets you play the next set of tracks. So you can't even try to get to the end of the game and then go back to get better medals. You'll be required to get a gold medal on every track as you go. Now, to give you a rough idea of how hard it is to actually unlock the tracks, let alone beat them, I'm currently in the top 1,000 in the world, and I'm unable to get past track 140 of 200. As far as I can tell from the in-game leaderboards, there are less than 50 racers who have completed this game, and there's also an achievement or trophy for getting 50 Trackmaster medal times, which are times that are faster than the developers, who are actually really good at this game, and that's going to be yet another stepping stone to the completion. You will undoubtedly have to become a master at this game in order to complete it, even if the amount of hours you put in isn't that high. In at the number 3 position, we have XCOM 2, and you'll get a good chunk of the achievements or trophies out of the way by completing the game on a normal difficulty and then doing a bunch of miscellaneous tasks. After that, you'll need to complete the game on Commander difficulty, but not only that, you'll also need to beat a mission with a squad of all of the same soldiers. You'll need to beat the campaign on Commander difficulty without losing a soldier. You'll need to complete the Commander Plus difficulty without buying a squad size upgrade, and you'll need to complete the campaign while in Iron Man mode. And last but not least, you'll need to do that by July 1st, which is an in-game calendar, and basically means you have to do it extremely quickly. Not only will you need to complete the game on that difficulty, meeting all of that extra criteria, you'll then need to go back and complete the game on Legend difficulty, which is extremely tough. In order to beat the game on Legend difficulty and beat the game by July 1st on Commander Plus difficulty, you will need to more or less become a master of this game. You will need to be able to beat the hardest missions on the hardest difficulties with almost no upgrades. Not only that, but you'll need to have the entire campaign mapped out step by step and planned so that you make sure you hit all of your criteria. As soon as a game asks you to play on a brutal difficulty and then starts taking away every possible method for you to have an advantage, it's gonna be a tough game. And for those reasons, this game's going to come in at number 3, even though people are able to complete it in under 100 hours, although most people take much longer. It's not the time required that makes this one so high up on the list, it's the skill needed. In at the number 2 position, just barely losing out to the winner, is Warhammer The End Times Vermintide. This game will take roughly between 200 and 300 plus hours for the average person to complete, if they're good enough to complete, because this is the highest difficulty I think a game can be. Now, the first thing you need to do is complete the game on hard. That'll unlock Nightmare difficulty. Then you can complete the game on Nightmare difficulty and unlock Cataclysm difficulty. Then you're required to complete the game on Cataclysm difficulty. Some other things you'll want to keep in mind is that during the Nightmare and Cataclysm difficulties, friendly fire is on, and this is not something you're going to be able to do solo because the bots are simply not good enough, so it will require a very skilled and coordinated team of 4 players. Now, if you're underestimating how difficult Cataclysm mode is, there's literally only a handful of teams that have completed it together. If you actually end up being good enough to complete all the missions on Cataclysm, you're not quite done yet. You'll also need to get gold on Town Meeting, then collect 200 endurance badges, which alone takes at least 15 hours, reach rank 100, which takes hundreds of hours, and then you'll need to equip an exotic item in every slot on a single character, which means that you'll have to grind out loot and pray to RNGesus that the right thing drops for you. So as you can tell, this game is a huge time commitment, but not only that, involves a little bit of luck, and not only that, it's also extremely skill intensive, and still it's not number 1 on the list, but Warhammer End Times Vermintide is number 2. And last but not least, the hardest and longest game of 2016 is Gears of War 4 for its Seriously 4.0 achievement. Okay, so there is a lot of different criteria you'll need to meet in order to grab this. The easiest of which is completing the game on insane difficulty, and you'll probably also want to be doing that in co-op. After that, you'll want to go to every single ranked playlist and make sure you play at least 10 games in all of those to get a rank in all of the ranked playlists. Then we're going to be grinding a lot of Horde. You'll need to upgrade 5 of your skill cards to the maximum level, then complete all 10 of the launch maps in 50 consecutive waves of Horde, and you'll need to be in a squad while doing so, and you'll need to reach level 10 in every launch Horde class. With 5 different Horde classes needing to be leveled to max level, that's going to take a seriously long time. Also, for at least 5 of your Horde runs, you will need to play on the insane difficulty. Now, although you think we might be getting close to that achievement, we're not quite there yet. Next, we have to grab the Chest Candy achievement, which is for earning 1 of each launch ribbon, there being 141 launch ribbons divided into Horde and Versus mode. Although some of these ribbons are very easy, there's also a handful of them that are going to cause a lot of players a lot of problems, and therefore will require a lot of skill, especially for the ones that you have to do online. So at this point, I think it's fair to say that we got all of the tough achievements out of the way. We have to be done, right? Nope, not yet. We still have the please, can I have some more achievement, which is for re-upping 10 times. You need to gain over 15 million experience in order to do so. After all is said and done, in order to get Seriously 4.0, you'll need to be extremely good at Horde, extremely good at the online multiplayer, and you would have also had to have invested over 250 to 500 plus hours. Now, yes, there are a couple of cheeses and a couple of boosting methods which make this significantly easier, and that's the reason that over 200 people already have this unlocked. However, it is also one of the most popular games of the year, meaning it has the biggest user base. I'm sure more and more people will continue to unlock the Seriously 4.0 achievement as time goes by, but that doesn't make it any less rare and desirable. For that reason, I'm putting Gears of War 4 as our number 1 hardest completion of 2016. So that wraps up the top 10 hardest games of 2016. Now, undoubtedly, some of you disagree with the list. Let me know down below in the comments in a constructive way. Also, feel free to let me know in the comments if you've completed any of these games. Feel free to brag. You kind of deserve it. And you might be like, yo, Macca, I ain't about that life. I ain't trying to complete those hard games. I want to boost my score with those easy games. Well, I have a video for you. Click in the corner or in the description below. I will be making a top 10 easiest completions of 2016 as well, which will show you how to get about 15,000 gamer score in less than 20 hours. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Drop a like if you found the video entertaining. A lot of work went into it. Share it with a friend if you think they might like it. Special thanks to Drop Dead Artemis for supporting the show on Patreon. And hopefully I see you guys next time. Peace.